Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. This is your loyal Indie Diarist and host. I wouldn't spend too much time talking about myself because you should know me by now. But what I want to say is, if you missed the footnote from a couple weeks ago with Minimap on the Korean gaming market, I announced at the beginning of that episode that I was planning to move my podcast content production to one episode every 2 weeks instead of one episode per week. And from next week onwards, this schedule will actually come into place. So from the 13th of May onwards, there will not be weekly episodes anymore, but only one episode every couple weeks. That's to help balance my personal life and other things that I want to do for the show. But of course, I wouldn't be able to do any of this without my amazing patrons, so here's a shout out to them. Feinoku, Zugini, Fishbump and Peleg. You guys are incredible. You inspire me every single day, and I love having you in the community. If you too want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/theindiediarist and find all my tiers, which start from as little as £1.25 per month. Let's get into this episode now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. You know everything about me by now. I'm Anthony L. Wolf, your loyal Indie Diarist and host, writer, narrative designer, and senior content manager in social media. As you guys already know, of course. Today with me, actually, and it's been a while since I've had two guests on an episode at once. There are two amazing guests from Villainous Games, Valentina and Mark. And actually, I will hand it over to you guys to say a little bit about yourselves. So what you do, where you're based, and what you're working on right now, most importantly. I'll let any one of you just take the lead in that.
I'll jump in. I'm Mark True. I'm the founder and creative director of Villainous Games Studio. We're working on a game called Harvest Hunt. I nearly forgot the name of it. It's been a crazy time. And I'm based in London. We're Villainous.
Oh, I think we lost Mark for a little second there.
He said the cursed words "Harvest Hunt," you know.
Yeah, and then we lost.
Bam! Everything. The internet's down. Lights are off.
I'll keep this in the episode. It's gonna be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a first-person stealth horror game, roguelike, sneaky game that we're releasing soon.
Perfect.
I mean, actually, I've been saying that for months, but it's because now we've actually announced when we're releasing it. So it's like 22nd of May, 2024.
Yeah, seeing it on Steam is just around the corner. And actually, I think by the time this episode comes out, it will be just a couple weeks before release, because I think this episode will be out on the 6th of May. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah, nice.
Nice.
Over to you, Valentina, please.
So I'm Valentina Chrysostomou. I am also working at Villainous Games Studio with Mark, the game director there, and we've been working together on Harvest Hunt for about around 2 years now, and started on projects beforehand as well. And I've been in the industry for like over 10 years now. And can't wait to see how Harvest Hunt does. We're really, really exciting times now.
Yeah, perfect.
The end times.
It's the end times. I'm sure it's exciting, but also pretty scary now.
Yeah.
Good stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it out, and we'll of course have a chance to talk about Harvest Hunt in a short bit. But before we get there, I always like to open these episodes with a little icebreaker. And if you've listened to other episodes before this one, you'll know what this one will be. If you guys could be any game's character for one day, who would you be and why?
I'll let Mark go first if you want to do that one.
So I had a good think about this, but the problem is I can't remember the name of the game. But I think, like, for example, there's a game called Prototype and Spider-Man games or any games like that, right? In which you can just fly around a town or a city and just be completely, like gliding along. I'm trying to remember the actual game, but he's a very Latin man.
Is it maybe Bionic Commando?
Yeah,
Bionic
something
Commando
like,
could be prototype.
yeah, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
With a wingsuit or something like that.
Wingsuit. Infamous maybe?
Yeah.
Does
It's
Infamous have a
Infamous.
wingsuit? I don't remember. Oh, is
It
it
doesn't
Just
have a
Cause?
wing. It's
Just
Cause has
Cause,
a wingsuit.
thank
Could be
you.
Just
Like
Cause.
blowing
Yeah,
stuff
there you
up,
go.
Got it.
flying around.
Yeah.
I know what Valentina and I have a joke about me always having to mention Death Stranding, and that would have been. But hey, walking around carrying loads of stuff is not as much fun. But like flying around on a wingsuit, jumping onto cars, occasionally
Sounds
crashing.
a lot more fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun, right? So yeah, I think that's the hero I'd like to be.
Yeah, also you can blow stuff up in Just Cause,
Right.
like very visibly. So that was I love that about that game. Just Cause 2, I spent so many hours on that one. But yeah, what's your
absolutely.
pick, Valentina?
I'm not really sure, and I'm sorry if I'll bring the mood down, but I feel like every character in video games, or a lot of characters in video games, have either been traumatized in the past or about to be traumatized in the game itself. So I don't think I'd like to be any of the video game characters that I play. Isaac Clarke from Dead Space, no thank you. Haley from Last of Us, no thank you.
No,
Even just like other indie games, everybody's
Definitely
being
not Joel
shot
from The
at.
Last of Us.
Definitely, everybody's just being shot at, crashed with their cars. So I don't even know, honestly. Like, unless I'm a cartoon character or something like a hero character that marks, so like Spider-Man or something, I want to stay away as far as possible from all these traumatized characters in video games.
Yeah, it's weird. I just realized I never spent a minute to think about what character I would like to be, and I always ask my guest which one it would be. But you are right.
Even if you think about something like Assassin's Creed, where you're a badass, like a lot of the stories about, your parents either died or something happened tragically in the past, you lost a friend. It's like, I don't want to be any of these people.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Okay, yeah. Well, I can see the reason for that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is why I went for the like wingsuit. You see, like there's no trauma.
So
my people are being.
With you.
Yeah. Okay, so my people.
Yeah, you can have a traumatic past,
by...
but at least you can be a badass with a traumatic past. So
exactly.
I didn't see why not. Okay, right. Well, yeah. As you may have picked up on from my past episodes, this show is all about the human stories behind indie game development, as I also said during the intro. So I always like to start from the beginning. So I want you guys to think back to your childhood, if you want. What's your earliest or fondest memory that involves playing video games?
I have a couple, and this is going to date me so much that, when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth, I was playing a vector version of Star Wars on an arcade. And that blew my mind, because my brain went to like, how is this possible? Right? This is like a 3D thing happening in front of me. Okay, so it's like, now you look at it, it's like 4 lines and a dot, but at the time, my tiny child mind was blown. And then I came to England when I was 10 and was given a little like portable arcade. It's not like a Game Boy or anything like that. It was just like a LED kind of game of like Chopper Command or something like that. It was basically a helicopter game. And I needed to understand how this worked. Like this was voodoo magic, like the 3D stuff. And so I've always been really like since little trying to pry open literally like game machines and trying to figure out how they're working inside them. And then technology, and then try to pry open technology and see how it works inside. So that's kind of how I got into, my first memories of this.
That's fascinating. It reminds me of my dad, because he likes to just pry open anything that he finds and see how it works inside. Even built his own tube amp.
Nice.
He's very he likes just being very hands-on with technology and just building his own stuff. It's really impressive to me. But yeah, what about you, Valentina?
Bring back valves, man. Bring back valves.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I think for me, and this is I guess it's a very strange game to be playing as a child, but I was quite young when I got into games, and I didn't really care what games I played. And it was Mortal Kombat on Sega. It was so old. It was there was something fun about being a child and having no idea what I was clicking, because there's all these combos with the buttons, and it's like I'm clicking things, I have no idea what the pattern is. My brain still is like can't even form patterns. It's like, oh, it's doing this weird movements and takedowns, and everything is this kind of like flashy, and the gore was kind of interesting. Obviously it was kind of cartoonish back then, so I don't think it really mattered to me really, even as a child. But definitely playing on my little Sega console with the cartridges, and like Mortal Kombat was definitely very interesting.
Yeah,
I had to like blow it always. But I definitely remember that one because it was so different than your usual other games that were around that time. I remember it was like a lot of sports games, like just simple, kind of, I guess, more casual. And then there was Mortal Kombat that I had in my list there, and it was very different.
Yeah. Well, I remember back then it was a very manual experience, even in PS1. And I started playing with PS1. You just had the memory card, and sometimes you had to blow on the memory card because it just wouldn't work, or on the controller connector. So yeah, it was it was an interesting era, that one, where a little bit of dust could just mess up the entire thing. Yeah, good stuff. But do you think that the games you played growing up are having an influence on the kind of work that you're doing now, the kind of games that you're developing now?
I'm going to say no, weirdly enough, because when I was growing up, I mean, the only influence that they had was getting me interested in games. I actually came into games later on in my life, in my 40s. So into game development, not into games. I've been playing games all my life, but there were always this thing of somebody else does them. There's a magic fairy that points at a box and a game is made, right? It's like that was one box I wasn't looking into because it was just like, this is magic.
This is magic
stuff,
yeah.
Right? But I think other games that I started playing later on when indie game scene started, or when I was exposed to the indie game scene, it's not like I didn't know it existed, but it was just like, that's when I wanted to do it. I mean, I did some mapping, in Half-Life levels and stuff like that, like some level design with that. But it didn't make me think I could make a game. I don't know if that makes sense. I could make levels and I could play in them, but I never realized there was a massive modding community. So I was kind of like blinded to that. But I think that the moment that later on that actually got me like, I have to make games or I have to do that, was a gradual thing with a couple of games. One of them was Dear Esther, which played
it, of course.
That made me have feelings for no reason. I don't understand why I had feelings, and suddenly, I was like, no, I've been cutting onions, man. There's nothing to do.
What am I feeling?
Yeah. What's this thing inside my heart? Yeah, these feelings, and then kind of like Edith Finch and.
Yes,
they're kind of like that era. Of course, Gone Home was the one that I realized.
Yeah, all the walking simulators. Yeah,
all the walking sims, right? They all came in, but and the Chinese rooms. Everyone's gone to the Rapture. Just like I was like, I could not see underneath the thing, but I could see the scale, right? I could see everyone's gone to the Rapture is like lots of art and stuff that I don't really know how to do, but. Dear Esther, I can get this, and then I played the beginner's guide and like, oops, there we go. That's me.
Yeah. I've never played the beginner's guide, but I've seen it played.
Right.
That was.
I mean, it's a lot about game development, right? It's a game about game development or level design and about relationships and stuff like that. And all the feelings came in, and and that kind of set me on a bad course. That has ended up here.
Well, you kind of anticipated one of the question that was going to be exactly my next one, which is, when did you realize you wanted to make games? Was there a specific aha moment when you said, "Oh, this is what I want to try and do"? And that's a question for both of you, of course.
Yeah, I think it was the beginner's guide, but I mean, it was like it was leading up. I was like having feelings. It feels like being an adolescent, but you know what I mean. I started having feelings. I didn't understand them, and I was like. But it made me feel things. It made me look at that itch of trying to break things open came back, right? And this looked like a box that you'd open and you'd see what's inside, rather than a box that you'd open and you see a million transistors that mean nothing, right? You'd see a chip, like which is what would happen if you looked on the Modern Warfare, right, or Call of Duty, or the games I was actually playing. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you open that up, you'd just see loads of stuff, and there's nowhere for you to begin. But if you looked at DRS, you go, I get how this is made. I think I know this is made.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit more manageable, and also the magic is a bit more within your grasp, I suppose, because it's a smaller scope and whatnot. So yeah. And what about you, Valentina? Apart from the games that you were playing during your childhood, when did you realize that you wanted to make them?
I think I always wanted to make games, but I never knew it was a profession. I never knew. Obviously, like people made games, so it's a profession. But like when you're a teenager, you never really think that, other than your traditional, I guess, jobs, that like game development can also be a job. So when I really realized and I really wanted to get into game dev is when I played Gone Home 2013. So that was around 11 years ago. So it hasn't been that long, but like it was the game that for the exact same reason that Mark described the Ursa, it was something manageable, something you could grasp it and be like, okay, a small team made this, that had something they wanted to say, the mechanics and everything, they're easy to grasp, but not as complicated as making, I don't know, God of War or something like that. And it was that game that made me think maybe I can also start learning and getting into game development like more professionally. And there were 2 more games that came out in the same year actually that were quite different from Gone Home. One of them was The Last of Us that came out then, and the other one was BioShock Infinite. And all 3 games like were exactly what Mark said, and it made me feel things, and they're completely different. Like BioShock was a first-person shooter, and I wasn't really into shooters back in the day, and I was like, whoa, mind blown. And then The Last of Us was like, well, had great storytelling, something mature that I think at around the time didn't exist. And then Gone Home, Walking Sim, like completely different games, and all 3 of them just made me feel things and made me think like, wow, that must be like amazing to work on something like that. I would definitely like to see how like the sausage is made, or be part of the sausage making process. And I think that's a little bit connected to your previous question as well, like if the games that we played during our childhood had any influence. And again, I'll agree with Mark. I don't think directly that had an influence on what we're making now, but I think indirectly, because I tend to play different types of games, and even the 3 different types of games that influence me are obviously like night and day. I think what has indirectly then influenced me is the fact that I realized all sorts of games can be fun. Like you can imagine Papers, Please as a concept and be like, what? I'm going to be this boring guy behind a desk, like stamping passports, but it's such a fun game.
It is
and
fun,
then, And then third-person shooters are fun, and racing games are fun, and you can come up with all sorts of different genres and mix and match and can make them fun. I'm not saying it's easy, but it just made me realize a thing, being able to play these different games and just find the fun in them, that you can come up with stuff and they can be interesting, and there's going to be an audience for it.
Yeah, no, I see exactly what you mean. And also I can see what you folks are saying about, small games that, or more manageable experiences that make you wish or understand that you can actually do that thing yourself. Because I'm a hobbyist. I don't really develop games. I've developed a couple small things just for fun, but never released anything. I'm more of a writer, but there was this moment when I played To the Moon, which is of course just a very short, like 4 hours adventure, but like very manageable, very pixel art, so very simple in art style, and the story was so important for it. It made me realize maybe this is something I could do. Maybe this is a world that I could get into one day. And so yeah, I totally get what you guys are saying, that those small experiences that leave you feeling things are the ones that then push you into making games or into at least approaching the industry in a different way. And I think it's so magical. So yeah. But I think now we can move closer to the present. And with that one, I want to ask you something that might be useful for other devs too, which is there a particular development challenge that has left a mark on you, especially in recent years? And are there any big learnings from that you want to share?
Yeah. Well, the reason, wow, like, has anyone noticed what year it is? It's been a really rough year, so that's been a development challenge. From the point of like, so my job at the studio has been both creative director and founder, but also like a lot of us trying to do a lot of the biz dev and trying to talk to publishers and trying to talk. I've talked to so many publishers before settling on the right one, and that was pretty brutal. Like a lot of the feedback is kind of like, well, what do you want from me? You know, it's like if we show you a prototype, you go like, well, this is not finished enough. It's like you show them something else. It's like, oh, well, you know, this is far too long for us. Well, what do you want? You know, so that's been the big challenge, right? Is understanding that publishers are also on their own journeys, right? They're looking for something, and you're trying to find out what they want. So once you start asking that kind of stuff, it helps a lot. I mean, that's been the main big challenge, because of course, like if without money you don't have any studios, right?
Yeah,
and doing these things. But I think without sounding trite, it'll take you longer, but you have to keep on going and be systematic about it. I think if you're looking for publishers and things like that, it's not a matter of like once a week email somebody and then be sad because they haven't replied. It's a kind of like, it's literally a numbers game. So you know,
at one
which
point
I didn't know.
somebody.
This is what I would have told myself about a year and a half ago. Just like keep on knocking on the door, like be, you know. So like Val knows me well enough that that's the thing that's put a frown on my face compared to everything else in game development.
Yeah, well, I can see what you're saying, and it has been a tough year, and yeah, but it is a numbers game. At one point, a publisher is going to be exactly what you're looking for, and you're going to be exactly what they are looking for.
Right, so and this is how we hit on our current publisher. Like they were looking for us, we were looking for them. We'd had a good relationship beforehand, so like non-publisher, you know, developer publisher, just like a good relationship. They'd seen our game before, and big shout out to Neon Hive, because they're all super team out over there.
And to Dave who connected us. What amazing guys, connecting me with so many developers from all around the world. It's just amazing. Right. Yeah, but at this point, I guess I'm curious about the story behind Villainous Games. Like, how did it come to be?
Oh man, it all starts in a barbecue, right? So
okay.
I'm sitting around with some friends having a barbecue here, and one of us had wanted to do a game, and I'm not going to go into all the details because it's kind of talking about someone's dreams. That is very fun talking about your dreams, but really boring for everybody else. But anyway, and I think I was just the most persistent out of all of them. So out of that whole group of people, I said, "Yeah, we should make a game." I'm the last man standing, going like, "No, I'm going to make this damn game," and long story short, I said, Valentina, I'm tired of not being able to figure out how to make this game, right? Because I didn't know the game making process. I could do the technology, I could do the like first person shooter, I could do a lot of Unreal Engine programming, but game development is not just a technical skill. It's a soft skill. It's understanding the puzzles, the gameplay. So I had a chat with Valentina and said, hey, if you've got some time, let's work together for a little bit. And Valentina came on board, and I'm going to say the rest is history. Like, the world was changed forevermore.
And then, yes, 3-4 years later, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, it's been a journey, it seems, but it's been a good one from what you say. So, and here you are indeed, and now we get to finally the present, which is Harvest Hunt. And I'm sure, like, you kind of described it already, but let's try and make it fun. How would you describe Harvest Hunt in one sentence?
Shall I do it? I've been doing this for a while.
You can do it, Mark. I was trying to think of a meme to say, honestly. I was like,
okay.
I was trying to make it funny rather than an actual.
Yeah, no. So, you keep thinking of the meme because I'm curious.
I'll think of that, and Mark, you can go.
We have the meme,
stuff.
So Harvest Hunt is a first-person single-player roguelike in which you have been chosen as a protector of your village against a monster called the Devourer. And to protect your village, you not only have to protect it, but you also have to harvest some ambrosia and hunt the devourer. So I guess the meme is the meme would be that it's kind of like
I would have said like the villagers want gnomes, the master wants gnomes, and then you're just clashing in a cornfield. That's the meme.
Everyone wants the gnomes, you know, and you could clash it.
Everybody's hungry, okay?
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, it's a mixture of you know, first-person rounds in which you go and do a stealthy attack with a devourer. You go out to battle the devourer, to hunt the devourer, part of the name, and we also use is deep lore that you are uncovering. That's the kind of like big goal, to find out what's been happening in this village of Luna Nova, as well as using a card-based mechanic that we call whispers, and it's all managed by cards, so you can manage like your abilities, your tools, etc. by a card-based mechanic. So you got, you know, something for everyone really. If you like cards, we got them. If you like gnomes, we got those. If you like monsters, we got those. If you like cornfields, boy, do we have those. And if you have
if you'd like an example gameplay loop of what the game would be like when you started, I could like go into that, unless that's not part of this question.
No, of course, feel free.
Yeah. So if you imagine you're basically your player character is called a warden, and you put on this kind of like magical mask that allows you to see the devourer in the fields, and your goal is to, what Mark said, is to feed your village, and there's only one edible thing in where you are, and you can't live, and you don't know why. You'll find that out, but you have to go to the fields and collect ambrosia, and then the devourer roams around those fields also eating the ambrosia, and you have in your disposal various tools that you can select before you start your runs, and you also have what Mark described, the whispers, which are the different challenges you'll be facing during the run. And so you kind of start with the knowledge of like, this is what's going to happen, how can I strategize before I start the game. Then you start the game, see if you do well, and then when you survive or escape or whatever happens, you'll like come out either, you know, defeated, or you'll succeed in getting enough ambrosia to feed your village. You unlock cards, more tools or player abilities, and we'll have some more interesting abilities like that aren't related just to the player. We've got like what we call village fortifications, like something that basically the collective of the village comes to help you out in a way. They could be putting out some places to hide around the fields. They could be giving you different other variable abilities that aren't just related to the player. And then you have 5 different characters to play around with and uncover the story, and go into this kind of like internal hunt against the devourer.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. It's something that I would definitely enjoy, I'm pretty sure, because the genre mix and match seems also interesting, like fortification, village fortifications and whatnot. So I'm sure a lot of people will find the gameplay loop inspiring, if anything.
It's also scary. Like
it's scary.
Do we mention that, right?
And it's a horror game.
And that was actually my next point, because I read on your website that you focus specifically on making unusual horror games. Like, what do you like about that? Why do you focus specifically on that kind of aspect? And also, this reminds me of what you said, Mark, about just not really developing the games that you were playing as a child. So I'm interested in knowing, like, from both of you, what makes it so special.
The game, I think, what we have in our game is a unique combination of things. So what other people have said is that it's kind of like Dead by Daylight meets Inscription.
I was thinking about Dead by Daylight,
which is an easy way. I mean, it's not that simple, because we haven't just gone, hey, you know, like, get these two genres and kiss. You know, it's like it's not. We didn't design that. The angle that we come from is that we're a very small team. There's most 3 to 4 core members in the studio, so we have to play into our skills and our abilities. I think any team would do that. And what we have is Valentina, which is great gameplay, and we really, really are interested in these weird gameplay loops. And I say weird, but gameplay loops.
Even with Please Comply, when we first started, that was
Yeah.
like our first short interactive horror experience.
Yeah.
It was, if it's gonna be a short game, it might as well have like some sort of theme that is strange, you know. So I guess the same with Harvest Hunt. Other than what Mark described, I would say it's about just having gameplay aspects that are maybe a little bit more unusual. Like, for example, you use up your own health in the game to acquire the tools that you're going to use in the night. So you're going to start with lower health if you buy something more expensive. Or, you use up your own health to kind of summon things in the game, or there's just like this strangeness to it that that we're trying to like
thing,
put in. And I think the part of the horror, because like Mark said, we are a small studio, so we'll have to like work with our strengths. Part of the horror in our game is not the jump scares or crazy set pieces or animations of like, I don't know, somebody creeping behind the door and all that stuff.
Like
that takes a lot more. Yeah, it's about atmosphere and it's about tension, and tension is driven through the gameplay itself. So once you get in there and you only have 10 out of 100 health because you decided to buy all the tools possible, then you'll be like, oh my god, the tiniest hit, the tiniest mistake is gonna get me. So that's when you start crouching and hiding, and that's when you're like, I'm gonna go find the health. Will I make it there? Did I make a bad decision? Should I just leave? So it's about like the tension itself through the gameplay rather than like I said, like jump scares or crazy set pieces or beautiful realistic,
especially like
some ugly gory face or something like that.
And honestly, I love that because I always I've been thinking for a long time that there are two types of horror games: the ones that give you hyper realistic graphics with like big jump scares and whatnot, and they're usually made for viral material, and then the ones that actually do horror in like atmospheric and tense way. I remember playing Outlast, and I didn't really like it because of all the jump scares, and then I remember playing Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and I loved it because of how tense it felt. I loved the sequence where you have the monster that follows you in the water, and then the tiniest mistake makes you just fall into his mouth. And so that section over there to me was top-notch horror, the kind of horror that I like, at least. And I still remember it to this day, even after playing it. I don't know, I think I played it 10, 12, maybe 14 years ago or something. Can't remember when Amnesia: Dark Descent came out. But it was
getting
good.
That balance. No, it's hard to get in that balance when you're making games, because at first there's all that atmosphere that ramps it up is not there, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I mean, I think possibly in our next game we've now got a whole bunch of stock audio and things like that to add some atmosphere just to see if it's working. But that's it's a hard challenge that comes from a lot of playtesting. And that's what I was saying beforehand is,
and I think what you touched about Amnesia there is like it came at the right time, I believe, because we had games like, I don't remember exactly this right now, I might be mistaken, but we got games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, which are like, you have your gun and you have your melee weapon. It might be limited, but you kind of expect games to have some sort of action aspect, right? And then Amnesia came out and was like, wait, you can just light a match, you can hide, and there may or may not be a monster around. And it's like, wait, so what am I doing? And then this creates this tension. But I think it's also an example of how we need to evolve with the industry, because other games came out like that later over the years, and you kind of get burned out and you're like, okay, I know. You kind of know the rules at the point. I know if I walk in this hallway, nothing's going to happen. Oh, there's some health here. Oh, maybe now I'm getting into a boss fight. So you kind of start to know this stuff. And it's really great seeing some games, horror games, I think especially, like that are changing how,
you have to
or they
subvert
evolve,
it.
I guess, with the times.
You have to subvert those expectations, because as if you have a game that you replay, if you were to replay, like, was it Resident Evil 7, or was it Bioshock, right? The not, I'm getting the name wrong. You know the one I mean.
Biohazard, you mean?
Biohazard, thank you.
Biohazard,
if you want to play that again and again and again, you're going to know when the dad's going to appear. You know when the thing's going to... this mechanic is not a thing that you can play over and over again, but repeat that across games that are using the same mechanic. Like, you're going to, as Valentina says, you're going to be like, oh, right, ammo. You're
going to get burned
I wonder.
Out,
Oh, look, that shotgun looks very lonely by itself right behind a... I wonder if I go for it, I will be attacked. So
or after you get it, how you get that feeling like, oh, I just picked up an important item, or I did like I flipped the switch that the objective told me to. I wonder now if there will be more monsters spawning, or stuff like that, which is totally fine. Like those games are great and amazing, but it's really nice to see some other games kind of like subverting the expectations.
Hey, no shade on Resident Evil 7, right? Like that's like a tour de force,
that's
right?
one of my favorite games as well. So
I like Village as well. Village was
Village
good too.
Was beautiful. That was beautiful.
The whole sequence in the villa, I was like, oh my god, what the hell was that? That was incredible. But well, I mean, I guess. I suppose maybe I know the answer to this one, but I'll ask it anyway. Based on what you said, Mark, about finding a publisher and whatnot, if you could go back, is there anything you would change about the development of Harvest Hunt? Knowing now...
of Harvest Hunt, right.
What do you know?
I don't... Yeah, I think so. I think we weren't quite ready. We had like a shorter time scale. So... we were going to go early release in July last year. And I think I would have gone back and go like, no, we need some more time to polish. Just not because the game wasn't ready or anything like that. It's just like now, no, like you said, if I have like current information, I would have like, gone out and tried to maybe sell it in a different way to publishers. And not take any... and this is big love to a lot of publishers, but a lot of publishers don't come back to you for a long time. So, and not take that to heart. It's like, hey, it's fine. It's like, don't take that to heart. How about you, Valentina? What would you have changed?
For Harvest Hunt specifically? I think our production was pretty good. And us pushing the release date back has been like a good choice, I think. And so I guess I wouldn't change that. Actually, I would maybe I kind of bring it to light and be like, that was a great decision, because the game is itself now, it's tons better than what it was in July. It's miles, because we took the time, we're okay, during that time we want to find a publisher, do marketing, whatever. And actually that kind of gave us freedom to okay, the things that we wanted to do to improve it, we'll do them, and they actually proved to be amazing. So in that sense, I guess I wouldn't change something specifically as a big goal, because
or drop off £1 million. If I could drop off £1 million right at the beginning, that would have been great.
Yeah, well, no, that's an answer too. I wouldn't change anything. That's good, but it's interesting to see your perspectives here, because of course, as a gameplay programmer, you see it one way, but as a game director, you see another way. So yeah, that's really interesting. But I guess now it's time for the most important question of the show, which is always my favorite to ask everybody. Why are you folks game developers? What drives you forward, do you think?
For me, it was an itch that I didn't know I had, right? So I've had a whole career in web development for many years. I even wrote Flash games, but I always saw them as games. Sorry, that's a bad description. Always saw them as toys, something not important, something that you just did that didn't have any meaning behind them, right? Or their sports, right? I'm going to do Call of Duty. I'm sorry for any Call of Duty developers out there, but that's a sport, right? That's a literal there's no message. But once I found the message, and I don't have a deep-rooted thing that I have to unleash to the world, otherwise I'd be a writer, right? But is being able to realizing that can give such a beautiful feeling, whether it's positive or negative, or you're scared feeling to somebody. That was amazing. That's a little bit of a drug, when you've received that, when you, if you play Dear Esther and you go oh wow, I've figured out the family and I've been on this journey, and you come out of it and just sit staring at the wall. That's what I like to give some of our players. It's I want them to play Harvest Hunt, get to the end and go oh shit.
Yeah. There are very few games that made me feel that throughout my life. One is definitely Outer Wilds, and I have a poster there with the planetary chart, because I love that game so much. Nier Automata was the other one, and I think To the Moon must have been the third. And then there are others that maybe have complemented all those feelings, because once you feel them the first time, then you kind of see them again in other games. But but yeah, I do get exactly what you mean. It's a drug. Even as a player, it's a drug. Like, you just want to keep feeling those things, and you want to keep experiencing those things. But yeah, what about you, Valentina? Why are you a game developer?
I think for me it's less about the lightning in a bottle, and and it's the bottle itself. I like developing the games. I like thinking about the creative aspects. I like the production process. I like just all the types of creativity that goes behind it, because it's so much work and there's so much detail into everything we do from all departments. And I like making the sausage. I guess I like the process. And once I got into it, I was like, yeah, I'm actually really good at understanding games and good at making them. And so I guess what drives me is just the process itself. I really enjoy it, and I don't think I'd be able to do something else, honestly. It's like it ticks all the boxes. You can do tech, you can do art, you can do production, you can do it. Just involves all the senses in a way, you know. And if I'm gonna be doing something for at least 8 hours a day throughout the rest of my life, you might as well be something that's engaging, you know.
Yeah,
even if it's difficult.
Totally relate. I can see that, and also it's something that a lot of folks tell me. Like, it's the only thing I can do, and second, it makes sense because it ticks all the boxes. You can be anything, and I think that's so powerful. Right. Well, we've talked about struggles. We talked about challenges and successes. We talked about motivations too. Knowing with your experience so far, what is one thing you would change about the games industry? Also knowing what kind of year we just had.
I think there is a big need, and bigger companies might know this or things like that, from what I've talked to a lot of people in the community, being able to understand that people's growth in their role can also bifurcate. So you can become a manager, and you should train people to do that, or you can stay in doing the process, the technical process, whichever it is, in art or technicality, and people should be supported in that. I think one of the big things that keeps on echoing, and I keep on, like, Valentina and I, weirdly enough, aside from all the game development stuff, we're really good at, like, standards and talking about process of, you know, we're a small team, we have to do many hats, but it's like, so therefore we try to say, okay, this is our hiring process, this is our onboarding process, and all of these kind of stuff, right? But so the other thing I'd like to see is the industry get a bit more mature about, don't make someone that's a good 3D modeler become the manager of the 3D modelers, right? That's not the skill that they need at that point.
Yeah.
And you always see, like, bad things happening in the industry, and it tends to be because you've asked someone to do a job that they're not trained for, even though it's in their title, right?
Yeah. I see what you mean exactly. Yeah, and it's something that in the tech industry is very common. Like, a lot of people just want to remain in the practical stuff. They just want to do just want to make things, but they keep advancing because maybe they get a promotion, maybe they get more responsibilities, but they really always wanted to create things, and so then they feel like a fish out of water.
And also, stop firing people. Stop making people redundant. Stop firing people. Project, right? It's like, look at Larian and people like that. If you've made some money, don't squander it on, like, doubling the size of your team. Go, like, okay, instead of, like, tripling our profits, can we just have a maintainable profit margin? Sorry, like, who am I to talk to EA on how to do their business? But you know what I'm saying.
No, but I think you have a point, and a lot of people would resonate with what you say, and I resonate with what you say. I mean, I think just instead of always chasing profit, try to cultivate the people and the teams, because those are the important bits. And
because if you look, there are some core people in every company. You can point to any company. People are not just, like, replaceable cogs. So, like, you got a lot of knowledge that walks out, and this is a super specialist field. So, like, I don't know. I don't want to point to any company, but they've all got their own game engines and what have you. And if you got, like, oh, we're going to get rid of, like, a few engineers from this game engine, all that knowledge has just walked out. All of the problems that could come up in your next game has just walked out off the door, and you've lost that knowledge, which is now going to make your next game late.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Exactly.
And just, I guess, to add to a little bit to that, I think it's very difficult to pinpoint what exactly can be fixed in the industry, because there's a lot of things to fix, obviously. A lot of the stuff that Mark said are true, and I guess it's about, if we just step fully back, it's about just treating the people like people and not like just cogs in the machine, and understanding that having happy employees makes a better product, if you want to be selfish, even that's you can think of it like that. And a lot of times the way you can make happy employees is by caring about their well-being, and that can go into processes like, okay, how's your production? Are you always having unrealistic deadlines? Are your producers not really understanding how things are made and are promising things to higher ups that are like, so you can start by understanding, talking to your employees, and having producers and leads that understand what it will take to make a game without crunch, without burnout. Do you have enough teammates to support and to delegate? So I think it's like it's a human process, and understanding that and believing in that will then create the appropriate workflows and processes for that. And that in fact will, it's like a little snowball. It's like, but you need that snowball to be positive rather than negative, right? So minimizing the burnout, minimizing the crunch comes from being human to your employees, basically. And figuring out what is needed and how that translates into the game making process.
Yeah, I'm prioritizing, like there've been recent stories about a certain game about killing the Justice League, and you can see like scope creep in that. I don't know. Valentina and I get into good discussions about features and what has to go in and what doesn't have to go in, and how we prioritize all of that quite a lot. And I look at other games and going like, wow, you had so many features that overwhelmed the player, yet alone your production team, and you've just built something very complex. So I think those prioritizations, I mean, I know bigger companies have got so many drivers, both from the IP holder and the shareholder and everything else. But, those things.
I think it's important, though. And the reason why all of this, like, other than sometimes greed, that's like an easy answer, but I don't think it's an easy answer. I think like one of the reasons that all of this fails in so many different stages is the lack of transparency and communication. Like, how often does a normal employee is able to speak to their lead and complain about something, and the lead actually following it up to their director or the producer, and something being done about it? Whether it's like a deadline, whether it's about if everybody's transparent and everybody communicates, that's a positive environment. If you don't have that, there's something going on. Like either people are hiding something, or they're scared to say something, or the environment is not encouraging enough to do that. And if we could all just talk to each other and be able to figure stuff out, basically, I think that and have that kind of encouragement to do that, I think we could fix a lot of problems. But I don't really know if people are doing that. I have a feeling like people are scared sometimes to speak up, And
I think you hit the nail on the head there. But when you said positive environment, I don't think a lot of game development companies, the bigger ones, I don't know, of course, firsthand, but I suspect that they will not necessarily be a super positive and encouraging environment. That there might be some pressures from all directions, from your manager, from the manager's leads, and from the directors of the company and whatnot. And so it's not to justify anybody, of course, but I can see why those things happen, and why then people are either let go or they just leave and just try to start something on their own. Try and
I
do their
think
game.
It's about normalizing having difficult discussions, which is not something that people even do in their day-to-day life. Like we try to hide feelings. We're trying to hide feelings. We try to but I mean, if we keep hiding either your true selves or your how you feel about stuff, or something's gonna break at one point. And I think this it's very obvious now that the industry is kind of suffering in a lot of ways.
I think the bubble is starting to burst. But I totally agree with everything you guys said. And yeah, it's my only hope is that things get better next year, because this year is probably going to be a transition one. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, we're almost there with the episode. Just a couple more questions to wrap up, and some parting words. But I have to wrap it up. I've got a couple of. One is quite deep, but the other one could be fun for you guys. So the first one is, I want you to imagine writing a brief letter to yourself, maybe a brief note, but say maybe 10 years younger. What would you say to your younger selves?
Mark, you want to go first?
I'm still an old man like 10 years ago, so it's like it's
well, it's a 20 for you then.
Yeah.
Okay,
so no, I think it's worth it. Weirdly enough, it's about all the relationships you make along the way. That's been the most fun about it. Remove features, go smaller and then half it, right? And release as soon as you can. In other words, make a game first. Don't make, and I'm going to say this to everyone: don't make your magnum opus as your first game. don't
make the MMORPG.
Don't make Death Stranding as your first game, right? There's going to be a million other things to do. Make something small, make it even smaller than that, and then make sure it goes out and get a fan base, get people that like your game, people that are impressed
supporters
by
of your game and your company. Yeah.
Because that was me 10 years ago, like going like, right, so space battle.
Right.
With 1 million people and a cast of actors, that's huge.
Yeah, I think it's sound advice there. Just take your time and do things slowly and do them well, and it will pay off. What about you, Val?
I think personally, dear Valentina or something, imagining writing it out, I would say don't change anything, mainly because I believe that everything that I have learned in the past 10 years, I don't think I would have learned if I didn't go through it, you know. Whether it was like hard or like negative, it doesn't matter in a way, because I think I wouldn't have come to the realizations or wouldn't have had that experience. You know, if you just tell someone when they're like 18, you should exercise more, it's good for you, then I'm gonna care. But if they come to the realization themselves through their life's experience, I think that's much more important. And a lot of that with game development, a lot of that just comes through trial and error, and both error and successes are good. So I guess, I don't know, I would be like, just leave it as is. I think it's fine.
Dear Valentina, your wallet is behind the sofa. Love, future Valentina.
Oh, you lost your wallet. It'd be like, scratch the other lottery ticket, because that was the successful one. And in that sense, yes, I would. That's what I would say to myself.
Right, okay, yeah. Well, of course, I think you have a point there in the fact that you have to hit a wall before you learn how to change direction. So. And to go in a different way. So yeah, I totally see what you say. And lastly, this fun question might actually be fun. If you both had unlimited budget and time, so not that £1 million, but even more, Mark, what game would you create?
A very bad game. If unlimited time and budget, it would be a terrible game, man. You got to ship that. You've got to have a wall that you hit. And I know this is a bad answer for that. But I think
it's a great answer, actually. Yeah,
you know, we wouldn't be finished. I'd just be we'd be noodling, and then we'll be like, and now there's kites, and now
12 years later,
wingsuit.
What kind of game has kites? I want a kite.
There'll be kites. There will wingsuits. There will be like everything is destructible. Apex destruction everywhere. But I think I'd work on. Death Stranding keeps on coming up, but Kojima's got that one. I think for us as a studio, if we had like a bigger budget and something like that, I think I would love to do something that's very asymmetric horror. So, like, I mean, we don't need that an infinite budget and an infinite time. I think we need to do something like that would be really weird. That since like the budget's no option, it doesn't have to sell, right? But that you'd get like a real core audience that like absolutely love it, because it's like something that you could go out with your friends and have a little session with. I mean, to be fair, I'd actually really like to rewrite Wildlands, Ghost Recon Wildlands, so I can go and play with my friends on it again.
Okay, right. And do you agree, Val?
I agree with the first statement, which is like you need limitations to be able to create art. But to ask it in a more personal kind of like question, to give more of a personal answer, I think if I had a limited budget, I would start like a studio that had like two to three teams working on different projects, and it wouldn't be like AAA. It would be like indie to AA. So I like the kind of studios, for example, that Dotnod is having. They have Life is Strange, and they have like the Vampire and Banishers. Even though I think those games are still quite big, but so smaller than like half that or something. And I'd be releasing like smaller games, but maybe with like a sizable team. And it could be different projects, so you could all learn from each other. I think if I had an unlimited budget, it would be something like that. That would be more like about sustainability rather than like make the one game that's going to bring the most profits. And I think that's what I would like to try out, honestly.
Right. Yeah, like don't make Starfield, make smaller games that are way more polished and
smaller games, more games, and like something that is in AAA, something like between indie and AA and
AA or something. Okay.
I think it's a process with you, right? I think it's more about the process. Is about the sausage making than the.
Yeah, it's that. Well, I think it's also about the fact that I think you'll get a lot more benefits working on different small projects and releasing them and get different fan bases, and then maybe the fan base will grow to be as part of your studio, and just don't know. I just think all the eggs in one basket and all the money for one game would be a really bad first decision if I had unlimited budget.
Yeah, I see what you guys mean. Right, well, I think it's time for some parting words now. Well, first of all, thank you both for coming into the show. It's been a beautiful episode. I loved chatting with you guys, and I can see that you really love what you're doing, and that you're on the right track for a lot of things. So I guess to say goodbye, where can other people find you? And if they do, what is the best way to support you?
Well, I mean, they can find me on X as Mark Drew, which is really a cunning name to have on a social media platform. And the best thing they can do to support us is Wishlist Harvest Hunt. You've got time. It's going to come out soon.
Wishlist and buy then.
The buying is also important. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. See, she's the brains. I'm just the guy that
for me, it's again on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, or LinkedIn. Just find me under my name, Valentina Chrysostomou. I know that's hard to spell. Maybe you'll have it written down somewhere.
I'll have it. Yeah.
And I think drop us a follow on TikTok and Twitter. X. For we are villainous to see all the weird memes that we put out with the Devour and keep you hyped until the game comes out.
Perfect. Yeah, and you can call it Twitter, by the way, because I'm not calling it X. I mean, sometimes I am because I work in social media, but I don't like doing it. But yeah, of course, I will have all of these links in the description of the episode so people can find you and they can just say hi if they want to. But yeah, so. What can I say if not thank you again? It's been such a lovely chat. Thank you again. Thank you again for the third time, guys.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I absolutely love all your questions. I think they were creative and fun to answer. So thanks so much for coming up with them.
Really
thank you. I mean, I had fun, and it's great feedback to have. So I hope the listeners will enjoy this episode too. But yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
Right, what a beautiful, beautiful episode this was with the folks from Villainous Games. And I'm definitely going to play your Harvest Hunt, guys. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. We discussed anything from finding a publisher to developing good horror games, and we even delved into Amnesia and whatnot. This was definitely an episode that I will remember for a long time. Thank you so much. And listeners, if you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to the show or leave a rating, 5 stars on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this I guess. But you can also go to theindiediaries.com and find all sorts of links to, my Patreon page or my Discord channel, my Discord server, sorry. And that was a ship outside. I think I'm going to keep it in this take. But also now there is a YouTube channel as well that you can follow, where I publish shorts and where I will be publishing gameplay over summer as soon as I move to a new place, which is going to be a bit of a traumatic experience in a lot of ways. But yeah, other than that, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you are an indie game developer yourself, please get in touch, because I would love to hear from you and possibly feature you on the show. I'll speak to you next time.